Hello and welcome to Motor Week. On today's show, Ken Gibson goes to Sweden to drive the Volvo S60, the car the Swedes hope will finally give the BMW 3 Series a run for its money. But first, Richard Hammond checks out that family favourite, the Ford Galaxy. Will this latest version still be Mr. Blair's favourite this time around?
What a day, and it can't help but put you in mind of the birds and the bees. And where does that lead all too often? To those three little words: darling, I'm pregnant. Now, how you greet those words, with joy or with a little discomfort, is entirely down to your own personal circumstance. But one thing I can tell you for certain: you can wave goodbye to your little two-seater sports car or any hope of ever owning one. Welcome, my friend, to the world of the MPV. Clamber on board, and straight away, Ford have very much shunned the kind of fun French flavour you find in a lot of other MPVs, where they carpet the dash and then put the console in the centre. It's very sensible and sober in here. It's wearing a suit. But I would worry, if it were mine, that it might date rather quickly, particularly with this bit of walnut along here, and it's all rather sober and boring. But that is probably a nod from Ford towards the many business buyers for the Galaxy. Oh, and I forgot to mention, you're going to have to start doing things like buying a diesel. Well, no, you don't have to have the diesel. It just so happens I've hopped into the 1.9 litre TDI, which is the diesel of the range, and very good it is too. Very strong with loads of low-range torque, as you'd expect. But you can have either of the two petrols, a 2.3 litre or a 2.8 litre V6. And if that engine is anything like as good in this one as it was in the old Galaxy, it should be quite a fiery little number for a big old bus. And here's the interesting bit. Because in each of those versions, even in this, the TDI, you can have a 6-speed gearbox. That's usually something you'd find in your little sports car, so perhaps it's something to keep you happy. And once you're in here, you can kid on you're in your little sports car. Might be a surprise in a diesel, but actually quite useful, because it does mean you can row it through the gears and keep it in that narrow power band. And in the petrol, obviously, there are advantages, because you can optimise the engine's efficiency and get maximum fuel economy. And believe me, all of a sudden, you're going to start thinking about things like fuel economy. You don't buy an MPV unless you have to, and if I really had to, well, I think I'd probably want something with a little more flair and innovation. But then trying to make an MPV exciting is rather like buying wellies to match your dinner suit. Pointless. And that's very much the message that they got when they put the car in front of a consumer clinic. They said they wanted conservative, they said they wanted nothing too striking and frightening, nothing too radical, and no big changes. So that's exactly what they got. Case of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And that's it. It's been top of the pops for a long time, and it'll probably continue being top of the pops. Nothing to change there. Don't expect it to be exciting, that's all. You're not going to have the thrill of a lifetime. You've already had that. That's why you need an MPV.
You work hard and finally get into the position to afford your dream car, a Porsche. But what's the point in having a supercar with so much potential if you haven't got the experience to use it safely on the roads today? Well, that's why Porsche have introduced the Porsche Driving Experience, a chance to spend a day with a qualified instructor teaching you on and off-road driving skills. Today we've got the use of a 911 Carrera 4 and my instructor is Steve Smith. So Steve, what are we going to look at today?
Hopefully we're going to look at some of the safety features which are built into this car, some of the technological gadgetry, and also looking at some driving skills both on-road and off-road to try and help you to enjoy your Porsche in safety.
So we've got the use of a private test track. What are the main benefits that can teach to somebody, hopefully me by the end of the day?
Well, what we have is the opportunity to be repeatable. We can take you around the circuit and show you something. If you haven't got the hang of it, then we can do it again and again and again in a safe and controlled environment. We also have the use of a bold circuit, so we can look at some speed issues. We have a steering pad so we can look at steering and acceleration issues. And then we've got a short circuit so we can actually take you around and look at the balance and dynamics of the car.
So we're going to look at all aspects of the way that the car handles and braking and understeer and oversteer, and hopefully at the end of the day I'll go away a better driver.
I hope so. That's the name of the day, yes. Now the secret of driving on a bowl is to be smooth. The smoother you are, the more effective it is. Now you can see we've got the white line to our right hand side. If we keep that white line about 6 to 9 inches away from the driver's side right hand wheel, then that will be the optimum running area. So we're easing the car through now, doing around 82, 84 miles an hour. Now the exit you can see on our right there is where we do our braking exercises. So we're going to go around one more time and then I'm going to do the braking exercise. So that's 109 miles an hour. And you can feel the car, the ABS is working its way, and then we're to a complete stop. Now when I did that, you may or may not have noticed, but I put the clutch completely to the floor when I braked. There are a couple of reasons for that. Number one, it removes the engine from the drive scenario, so it gives us the ability to stop slightly quicker. But also, with the pedals being quite close together, which is great for heel and toe, there are a few people that particularly if they've got broad-soled shoes on, they can catch the throttle and the brake together. So with the clutch down, we haven't got 300 horsepower driving us at the problem. So getting the clutch down is quite important. The other thing, of course, is that if you brake really, really hard, occasionally you can stall the engine. If you stall the engine, then obviously there are downsides to that, especially when you look in the mirror and there's a big truck about to climb all over you. So with the steering pad we have here, as you can see, it's just a large area of tarmac. And what I want to do is look at the relationship between the steering wheel and the throttle. As we take the car around, you can see that we've got these control circles. Right. So if I take the car towards the control circle just on our right here, I've got the car in second gear, and we're just cruising it around. And I've set the car with a reasonable amount of steering on so that we follow the yellow line. And I'm going to keep the steering wheel perfectly still. But what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to increase the throttle gently, and you'll see that even though I don't move the steering wheel, that the car starts to go in a wider and wider and wider circle, which is basically understeer. So I can push the car further and further out. I still haven't moved the steering wheel, but we've moved at least 10 metres out. Now at this point you'll see the little orange light coming on the dash and the power being taken away from me, because this vehicle is fitted with Porsche stability management. Now when I take the power back off, then the car returns back to where it started from. With the power, just trying to be smooth with it and be delicate. Just keep the car nice and balanced all the way through so that the car just works. You can feel the suspension starting to tuck its way in as we come through. Just a little smear of the brakes as we bring the car into the next bit, and then back onto the power. Just easing it down into the second gear. Just turning in smoothly. Keep the car nice and balanced. Turning in to the right again, just feeding the car through to my left, and then back on the power. So what I'd like to do now is to swap seats with you, and
it's time for me to have a go.
Introduce you to the car.
Right.
Good. Okay.
I have to say, driving at almost 100 miles per hour around a high-speed bowl is an experience in itself, and quite daunting at first. it takes some getting used to, but as you become more confident, the faster you go, and in the 911 the experience is quite supreme. The high-speed braking test is something that's slightly unnerving at first, to be honest. Coming down hard from 100 miles an hour to a complete stop in about 5 or 6 seconds, well, you don't honestly think that you can make it, but as you can see, it's very safe and the car stays completely straight. Next, onto the steering pad, which is set out a little like a spider's web. You keep the steering wheel in a locked position with your hands, then add more and more power and see where the car starts to understeer. It shows what great grip and traction the car has as it goes further out around the pad. The inner track at the Leyland Test Centre gives you the chance to put the car through various high-speed corners, hopefully getting the car to flow gently through the bends. After a couple of slow-speed sighting laps, it's time to up the pace and really enjoy the car's potential. So Steve, we've done more or less everything around the track now today. How do you think I've got on, first of all?
I think you've done very well, to be honest. You've got a nice delicate touch with the car, that you use the steering wheel nicely and you brake gently and you accelerate gently, that you're not brutal with the car, which is what this is all about.
It's the key to the thing, driving smoothly.
Absolutely. Trying to be smooth, trying to be delicate and getting more out of the car rather than just pure brutality. There's a lot of people that just jump from one pedal to the other and they end up losing out because the car's out of balance, and so we don't get the progress that we need. But you've done really well. There's a lot of improvements.
Thanks
Good.
very much, Steve.
You're very welcome.
After the break, Ken Gibson has a date with a very sexy Swede. I'm talking, of course, about the new Volvo S60. Make sure you join us.
I've got a choice for you. A BMW 3 Series or a Volvo. No contest, really. You want the Beamer. But take a look at this. The S60 really is a very clever combination of Volvo's elegant S80 flagship and the stylish C70 coupe. The car might have the flowing lines of a coupe, but on the inside it's down to business, and Volvo delivers a typically functional and high-quality interior. Unfortunately for Volvo, beating BMW's 3 Series demands considerably more than just a nice body. You need to compete with the Germans' legendary reputation as the ultimate driving machine, and that means a great chassis and sweet engines. But they've got off to a great start with these seats, which have to be the most comfortable I've sat in. The Volvo is one of those nice cars you feel instantly comfortable in. Steering is precise, it's got a very composed feel on the road, very assured. You can drive it at pace or you can just relax, but it feels very, very sure-footed, driven hard, whether it's on twisty roads or a motorway. And the S60's fast, very fast. The 2.3 litre 250 brake horsepower is capable of 0 to 62 in just over 7 seconds, a top speed of 155, and that puts it into the territory that can beat the majority of 3 Series for performance. This Volvo is also a wonderfully easy car to live with. All the dials and everything are perfectly to hand. I like touches like the integrated phone system that's actually into the dashboard. And it's got a very handy on-call emergency link-up. If you have an accident, It's linked directly to a central computer that informs the accident services of exactly where you are. And that's a real bonus for ordinary people. The BMs might still have the sweetest sounding engines, but Volvo's got its own little ace when it comes to sound. It's got an absolutely superb sound system. On the engine front, it's a case of turbos or us, with the choice of 3 blown engines and a straight 2.4 litre. Buyers of Volvos expect the very best safety package, and passengers on the S60 get wrapped in a blanket of the very latest safety technology available. There is no doubt this is the sexiest thing to come out of Sweden since dear old Ulrika. And it completes a remarkable transformation from Volvo, from makers of boring boxes to really dynamic motors. There's no doubt it's a worthy rival for the 3 Series, and even better is the price. Volvo have cut the price of the S60 before it even arrives in the showrooms in November. And at £25,795 for this top-of-the-range T5, it's a good £2,000 cheaper than the equivalent BMW. And even better, it's quicker.
The Daleks, Godzilla, Darth Vader, Dracula, Frankenstein, Hannibal Lecter. What have all these got in common? Well, one thing is, they're all monsters. Well, let me introduce you to another monster. Yes, you're right, doesn't look like one. It's a saloon car, and it's made by BMW. Let me say this again, this car is a beast, and one of the few clues to give it away is the badge at the back. Still not convinced? The only way I can prove it to you is to take it for a drive. Now once you get behind the wheel and fire this baby up, the car starts to exert a certain force on you. It's almost subliminal. You can't feel it, you can't see it, but you know it's about to happen. The only way I can describe it is by calling it the Jekyll and Hyde effect. And no matter how mild-mannered, strong-willed or restrained you are, you will succumb. You will succumb. Hide. No. Jekyll. Hide. Jekyll. Hide. No, Jekyll. Hide. Jekyll. Hide. The M5 at first glance seems understated. It looks like a normal 5 Series saloon, but looks can be deceptive. There are clues throughout. Big wide multi-spoke 18-inch wheels, a slightly deeper front spoiler, and the quad exhaust tailpipes, all indications to its illustrious heritage. This car belongs on the open road. It needs to be driven. No, it begs to be driven, and driven hard. It's like a wild animal fighting to be released, and all you have to do is put your foot down and hear that engine roar. The performance is staggering. The 5-litre V8 400 brake horsepower engine will catapult you from 0 to 60 in about 5.1 seconds, if you can find a road grippy enough, while the top speed is limited to a mere 155 miles per hour. With all that power and a weight of nearly 2 tons, you need some stopping power. BMW have fitted the biggest brakes on a 5 Series to date, and boy, do they work well. I didn't know they were that good. Now, if all that isn't enough for you, there's always the sport mode. No, please, not the sport mode. By simply pressing this switch, the car takes on a whole new set of characteristics. It's almost like finding out the spotty boy next door's a stormtrooper for the SAS. The steering becomes heavier, the car seems more firmly rooted to the road, and the performance is even more responsive. Don't ask me how it's all done. All I know is you no longer have a beast on your hands, but a monster with a serious attitude problem. feature I really like is the way the mirror tilts down when you're reversing. It's to stop you hitting the curb when you're parking. That's nice, but what happens when you overshoot your exit on the motorway, which you will do in this car with the speeds it's capable of? I mean, it's going to be a real bugger trying to see when you're reversing up the hard shoulder. It's not going to be much use then, is it? See, it's this car giving me all this attitude. This car just inspires confidence. The steering is impeccable, acceleration savage in any gear, and you know you can corner with confidence with those big wheels firmly planted on the road. Oh no, I think I'm falling in love with this monster. I need to get out. I need to think straight. I've just got to get my breath back. No, I need to get out. Oh my God, I've got to think straight. BMW don't use the M badge on just any old car. The M stands for BMW's motorsport department. There have been 2 previous M5s, both straight sixes. The last M5 was killed off in 1995, so it may have taken a while, but the wait was definitely worth it.
So why did BMW make this car? I think it's because they can. They just love a challenge to build the best performance saloon car in the world. Do you know, this car's not like a monster at all. It's like Muhammad Ali in his prime. Beautiful, elegant, fierce, knocking out all the competition. So watch out, you rivals, because this car floats like a butterfly and stings like a bee.
Well, that's it for today's show, but make sure you join us next time on Motor Week.